Good morning. So money these last few days has been going into the recent laggards. Nice to see. Nice to see. Good morning, guys. So Reddit really got smashed this morning. Reddit got its ass kicked, and RR Robotics had some news. YMC. Hecla. Net has been a beast. Net, you also have CrowdStrike trying to reclaim the 200. Hold on, let me see something really quick. That's my 200 day blue. Net has been a beast. Yeah, I like the idea of reclaiming the 200, and now we've got a bit of a gap up overnight, 211. Let me just see what the hell happened here. Was there news? Cloudflare, nope, that was last night. Climb over 3% after key trading signal. Net, good for them. Net, CrowdStrike's another one. Do I think Rigetti? Oh yeah, this is gapping up over the 200 as well. Do I think Rigetti is shortable here? I mean, I think they have been shortable. I got shaken out of my QUBT, unfortunately, just way too much chopping here. And I added against the 50, and then eventually I got stopped out on QUBT. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's got a pretty crystal clear shelf. And the one that has already lost its 200 is IONQ. So it doesn't look very good, if you ask me. Does not look very good. And think about, how strong this market has been. Think about like new themes working, the aerospace and defense group. Think about like the data center stocks, how those are kind of just chopping around but hanging out a whole lot better. Like a Hut, for instance, right? Much, much, much stronger. Even an APLD, much stronger. So it's like the quantum stocks, they should be like the back of everybody's mind. AV is interesting. A little bit bigger of a pullback than I would have loved. A-Lab has earnings coming up soon and just continues to chop around. We do have the 50 simple moving average just underneath, so we'll see what that ends up doing. Dollar Tree EXP I haven't looked at. These aren't very quote unquote sexy names, so but yeah, I mean, back in a stage 2 uptrend, a pullback into the 50-day, maybe. Yeah, maybe not a terrible idea back into the 50-day. EXP I haven't looked at. Nah, maybe not EXP. Maybe not this one. Lack of momentum for a really long time, for almost an entire year. So maybe not that one. We just gap up and sell into strength. Well, we saw it with USAR yesterday. And, on the investment from the government, and then CoreWeave. We saw it as well with the investment from NVIDIA, although this one is gapping up just a little bit. So, I will keep my eyes on like an NBIS. I will keep my eyes on a Galaxy. So these are all, kind of going to be having a similar gap up. FIGR is interesting. FIGR is a nice little pullback near the 20-day. Really nice move up, quiet, basically pullback comparison to the breakout volume. And it'll be good to watch this one. Names into pullbacks against their ascending moving averages definitely have my attention. KTOS being another. And then PL, similar story too, right? This is aerospace and defense name, just pulling back into the 20 basically and holding right around 25. I talked about this one on last night's watch list video. I like the idea of break 25, visit the 20 simple moving average because there's just a clear little buyer in here. Break this level, visit 25, undercut, and then reclaim. That would be sweet. So, yeah, it's these AI security names. You got Net, you got CrowdStrike. Probably the only two I would focus on. Rubrik's not very clean. PanW is still, I think, below the 200. Yep. Nah, AVGO's in a really ugly base. So there are better semiconductors than this one. There are better semis than this one. I would give AMD more attention than I would an AVGO. That's for fact. Right? So if I don't own AMD, and AMD and AVGO are in very similar groups, right? Semiconductors. And I don't own either of them. I'm going to try and get myself positioned in this one before an AVGO. What do I think of FSLR compared to TAN? I mean, it's fine. I like how we're just holding here. But at some point, we're going to need to get going above the 50 simple moving average. Like just a tons of chop here. And I'd like to see it get going. And if you look at an NXT, you could just see how long things can chop for before they really get going. But NXT looks like the best of the bunch. ZM stage 2 uptrend. Yeah, could be. When they have earnings. They have earnings coming up in like 4 days. Yeah, I would be careful with a new position. Is that 4 days? Oh no, this is March, excuse me. So over a month. On a high volume setup, do you care about the news itself or the market environment? I care about the news. Ideally, it's a gap up on earnings, but it doesn't have to be on earnings. It's just got to be good news. Plan for Tesla earnings, just wait. I don't own it, so it doesn't really matter to me what it does for earnings. Just wait. Judge the reaction and take it from there. RCAP. I mean, I love the accumulation volume that came into this thing on the way up, kind of falling volume on the way down. Ideally, maybe a pull into the 20-day. I don't know if that's going to happen, but, just trade quieter here for a few days, let the 20 catch up, and then in a couple days, we'll look at it again. Warby Parker, I mean, what an awesome deal to, partner with Google on their end. I mean, this looks pretty good. Yeah, Warby, not too bad. How liquid is this name? Trades $100 million a day. Not bad. RDW on a gap up. I would probably avoid this, but again, aerospace and defense, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or are they just drones? I'm not sure. I talked about Toll yesterday as well. I don't think that this looks totally bad. Again, an undercut of the 20-day and a reclaim. All of that looks fine. But do I want to own a slow one? Right? That's the question. I already kind of own a slow name. We'll see. Would it be a good short entry in SLV if it undercut and fail reclaim VWAP? I don't understand. That seems like a mouth mouthful here. Hold on. If it undercuts and fails to reclaim VWAP, or if it bounces and rejects to the down. I'm confused about what that setup would look like, just reading through kind of what you said. But, looking at the massive volume in silver yesterday, obviously we have a small little gap up going on right now to the tune of about 2.5%. So I don't really want to think too much of it. I think yesterday I was kind of hopeful that we would gap down and then retest and try to go green and then fail at that level. So I will still be kind of watching yesterday's close, and it would be 98.34. If we break prior day close, I would consider adding. And then similar story, if we take out yesterday's lows, I would consider adding some more. We'll see how that works. So I'm effectively sitting on a 103. What's working a little bit better for me is SILJ. We also have a bit of a gap up going, but I'm in from 40 and a half basically. So I'm still up about $2 a share there. And we didn't really gap up much at all, about 1%. So for now, that's the plan. It could be. Again, AMD has earnings coming up, so I don't really know. They've got earnings on my birthday. Just in case anybody, wants to send me birthday presents, I just thought I'd throw that out there. No, I'm kidding. February 3rd, next Tuesday. So they have earnings, and we do have a cup. And here's the thing. This could just be a classic cup and a handle. Like a double top short sale is only known in hindsight, right? So like if you were watching this price action go up, 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 and you were like, okay, this has just gone up too many days in a row. It likely needs to pause. I want to get involved on the short side, right? You know your level, which is basically October 29th high, which is 267.08. And then all of a sudden, price comes right into that high, and you're just looking for your entry, right? Which for me would just be a 620 setup on the 5-minute. So I would literally be looking at this if I wasn't short, and I would be looking to short it basically right on this break of VWAP or the little retest and fail with my stop at high of day, right? That's it. But what if this thing just ends up finding support here, going sideways a few more days, and then breaking out? Well, then the idea of a double top was wrong. But what if this thing just ends up fading again today, right? Where you get 1 day of fade, 2 day of fade, and then a third day of a fade back into like closer to the 10-day, like the call it 43 area. Well, all of a sudden you could take some off, de-risk the trade, and then let the rest work. So it's like breakouts are only really known in hindsight. Double tops are only known in hindsight. Undercut rallies are only known in hindsight. You know how they set up. You know your entry tactic. You know maybe the environment that they might work in. You know what the group is doing. All of those are like layers on top of what your entry might look like. But the reality is that you never know the end result, and you never know how well it's going to work for you, right? So it could be a double top, but how long does that double top last for? 10 days, 3 months, a year, 4 days, like nobody knows, right? But again, you know what your entry would look like. You know the level that you want to play off of. You can understand what the group is doing by looking at the group. You understand what the market's doing, right? All of these little layers, again, help you get in safely. Yeah, Billy, I saw the gap up this morning. God, they're just not making this shit easy. So Billy's basically going to be off the radar. Baidu's another one I've been watching, and this one's also got a bit of a gap up. I already own Baba, and this one's gapping up as well. There's a chance that if we can get a small little washout today, I will add to my Alibaba. But again, I talked about this one on last night's watch list video too. So very, very similar. You get a pullback into the 10-day. You take out prior day high. I added on the 21st. And then I trim some off the next day. And then you get a pullback into the 10 again, and then you break prior day high. I was hopeful that I can add again today and then trim another little piece off and just let it work. What do I think of TQQQ? 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 I mean, I don't really mind what the QQQ is looking like at the moment. So, it's just, it does have to get going here pretty soon, but I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, if something has earnings in 2 days, just be patient. This could easily gap out of this base, then give you a high volume close. What do I think about Palantir and SoFi short? Palantir could very well be a late stage base. That is my thinking. We have a date with the 200. How the market reacts in that environment, I don't really know. Jumia is too thin for me to trade, unfortunately. Not bad. A recent breakout. Yeah, Solar Group has been holding up for the last few days. I'm still short NVIDIA, and I've been kind of using this 5-minute opening range break. And we really haven't done anything since. So. Yesterday, you took several VRAP reclaims or 620 crosses after the UNRs. Okay, so that's part of the problem. You have to be paying attention when you're taking a cipher, right? You have to be paying attention to how the group is acting. So when you're looking at cipher, and again, I talked about this yesterday, if CoreWeave's coming down, if Iron's not acting well, yes, like I also tried Iron. It just didn't work. So not that big a deal. I tried it as well right in here, and it did not work right away. So this is not a very big loss. You can, I mean, at least myself, like I can live with this result all day long. But when you 620 setup, make sure that you're paying attention to the group CoreWeave, NBIS, GLXY. They were kind of telling you to not take that setup. Tesla was weak right off the bat, and you don't really want to deal with something that's breaking the 50 simple moving average. And there wasn't really actually a 620 setup in here at all. So you shouldn't have gotten into Tesla at all. Bros has not been doing anything for a while, right? It's got to push off of the 200-day. And again, I don't know where you saw this 620 setup, but it would have been late day. But you're taking it below a 200 simple moving average. You could have avoided that altogether. And then LEU, this is a laggard within the uranium space. You mean this thing has done this while CCJ has been doing that, right? Or UEC has been doing this. So it's like you're trying to get yourself into a laggard. So a lot of the names that you're trading either really didn't trigger. They're the laggards in the group. They're trading below the 50 and the 200. There's no reason for you to even be trying to get in those. I already own Baba. I love it. I think obviously Billy, Baidu are trading amazing, better than Alibaba. But I do think this is a picture perfect falling wedge that could very well go for a much, much bigger breakout. When I'm looking at the weekly, I think Alibaba's got some serious potential. Cool. Crude oil hitting highs. Beautiful. And we're trying to get over the 200 SMA. If you're crude oil, that will be good for my XOM. Not necessarily if you know your setup. Again, nobody ever really knows what the absolute top is going to be, but some stocks will give you, stocks in particular, will give you a really, really clear setup in terms of shorting the highs. But, it's definitely not a setup for everybody. You have Baba 168. My first buys were 159. So it's nice to see it working for now. And I've done a nice little job adding, and I'd hope to be able to add more today, but that might not happen. When you're looking at the SPYs, it's still affected by SPY and Qs. No, it's going to be maybe more affected by the IWM, but scratch that as well. I would tell you, especially if you're trading small caps, focus more on the group. How is the group acting? Much more important. Well, APLD hit new highs. I feel like just the whole group at the moment is awfully choppy, man. Like I'm looking at Iron, and Dude, I'm over here looking at Cypher, and I'm getting nauseous just looking at this shit. You know, I've tried to trade this, and I'm just getting nauseous looking at it. Wayfair, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Wayfair, not sure. Inno data, not bad. Nice tight inside day. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate that. Yeah, with AMD, again, you never really know the outcome of anything. It's always just hindsight, right? But you have to know what your technicals look like in real time. You have to understand the levels that you want to execute against. I mean, I see you do something very, very similar all the time, right? You've got your level, but you don't know if it's going to fail there. You just know what you want to see. You know what your position sizing will look like. You know where your exit is based on what your entry might be. All of that really matters. What do I look for in a great breakout? In a really great breakout, you're in a less choppy environment, so you'll have seen other breakouts work, right? You don't ever have to be the first one in the pool. You're in a stock that's been showing relative strength. You're in a stock that's in a great group. You're in a stock that's got clean technicals. It has a pickup in volume going through the pivot. What your pivot is, again, what is your pivot? Usually for me, it's a break of prior day high or a break of the range. Again, a pickup in volume going through that pivot and the stock having good earnings and sales. If it's got that, it's got the rocket fuel. It's in a good group. It's in a good market. You've seen breakouts working. It's got the pickup in volume. It's breaking the range. It's got the nice little lift. It's got good follow through. It's got 1-2 days of follow through. It doesn't retest the breakout spot. But what do I look for right in that moment? A pickup in volume going through the pivot and a good acting market and group. That's what I look for in a good breakout. I buy gap ups, but I had to have seen gap ups stick in order for me to be enticed to buy gap ups. What's the biggest issue? And I said it yesterday during live stream. What's the biggest issue with buying gap ups right now? I said core weave and USAR. I literally said verbatim, I'm not buying that gap up today, right? And it turned out to be the right idea. You try to buy that gap up, you're just chopping yourself up into a million pieces. So I prefer to just see what the reaction is to that gap up and see if there's follow through. And if the market's being friendly, I go and get the next gap up or the one after that or the one after that on a piece of news or some earnings. Very, very important. Or if a stock gaps up on earnings, maybe I don't touch it on day one, and then I wait for a day 2, day 3, day 4 setup on that gap up. So yeah, TSM not bad. I didn't see the news, but not an ugly looking chart. I mean, I don't know where I would have gotten involved. Would have been nice maybe over Friday's highs, 337 and a quarter, basically. Super, super tight day yesterday. And a gap up. This one and ASML have been absolute powerhouses, man. My SMAs 10, 20, 50, 200. And then I do have the 100 and the 150 on there, but it's more so for a visual. I really don't trade off of them. Although there are times when a stock comes down to that level and then finds support on it, right? Finds support on the 150 and then starts to bounce. But I don't really trade off of it. Do I see silver continue to melt down? I mean, the volume was so big yesterday, you would think. But boy, I was not the only one shorting silver yesterday, which gives me a little bit of caution. And the one thing that I'll say is gold did not follow. Gold did not trade this abnormal volume. Let me pull up gold futures. Gold did not follow. Gold didn't trade this abnormally massive volume yesterday. I mean, big volume, but really didn't fall apart. And today, kind of pushing right back up, still above the 5-day. Yes, we're extended, but I don't know. I would hope it continues to melt because I do have a silver short, but I also have an SILJ short. And as long as like a Hecla can continue to roll over, then I do think there's a chance, but I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. It's I've never really tried to short a commodity like this that's gotten really extended that I think has the entire world's attention. So it's a tricky one. But I do think that if and when silver tops, whenever that's going to be, it's going to create such a massive opportunity. And again, it's been a massive opportunity for people on both sides. I unfortunately don't have enough gold miners or silver miners. The only one I have left is NEM, and I've been in this one since early December. So there's just part of me wants to see my long keep going. I just don't maybe have enough shares because I've been trimming on the way up. Part of me wants to absolutely crush the short because I know that once it tops, you're then on the backside and it'll unwind 30, 40, 50%. And you can take a gigantic position and just, make your year. But I'm not sure. So I don't know. I wish if I knew the answer to that question, I might already be a billionaire. I did the same. You took a lot of 620 of Cypher Hut Iron. Okay, so yeah, they all started picking. Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't go to three names in the same group, right? You don't need to do all that. Pick one and then just let it work because if one works, they all tend to work. If two of them fail, the other two will come right back down. So can you explain who is preventing silver not go up? Oh no, silver's been going up. What do you mean? Who's preventing silver from not going up? It's been going up, and I think one of the reasons that it's been going up so much is you also have the arbitrage trade open, which I'm pretty sure everybody at this point also knows about. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think obviously the ARB closing or it going to a 40% margin requirement in order to have it will be the only thing that kind of really derails silver, but we'll find out soon. I'm using 620 MACD, but I don't really use MACD too much. I use just a histogram of MACD, and then I use EMAs on a 5-minute chart. Yeah, I saw Reddit on the gap down. That looks pretty bad. AOI. I'm a little sloppy here. Little sloppy there. Corning was one on last night's watch list video. This one's gapping up. Wish it would have held up for me because I did think it was one of the better looking setups. This fucking market, dude. Just when you have a nice chart, why can't like the market just give me the 8% move? Why does it got to just gap it up like this? Super, super annoying. Earnings tomorrow. No, not really. Part of the reason that I mentioned them is because I think more people can trade them versus short, or more people have comfortability going long versus short. So even though you're trading the inverse, I didn't really do it for me. Otherwise, I would have just said, short silver futures, short gold futures, and then you're done with it, right? But you took short entries on Lyft. Yeah, I mean, Uber's been acting like crap too. When did you short this? Yesterday? Ugh. Right into the 200-day. So my preference on something is losing a key moving average like the 50, or you break the 200 and then you retest, right? So like Uber, this was a really nice spot that I liked a few weeks ago right here. So you had two spots. You had into the 50-day, and then the next day you could have shorted the gap down using the 50-day as your guide. And then you once again had into the 50-day, could have shorted the next day on the small gap down. So on something like Lyft, you're shorting into a rising moving average. That is not my favorite. So the 200's rising, could very well be finding support here. And here you are shorting it. After it's not even really tight, it's just kind of like this falling channel right into the 200. So it's like it doesn't really feel like it's tight. Like when it loses the 200, it's going to roll over in a hard way. Or it just doesn't feel like that versus maybe something like IONQ where what do? Right? You've been going down, then you go completely sideways. Then all of a sudden you go right back up into a declining 50-day and you just consolidate, 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 consolidate. And then all of a sudden you break the 200 and then you have a quick little speed up because you got nice and tight onto that 200 versus like your LYFT, which just kind of channeled into that 200. And then it just, it kind of doesn't go anywhere. I don't usually trade IPOs too often until we get through their lockup. I'd have to look at VOYG. I don't know what this was, but a little loose, little loose. Again, channeling. I prefer flat bases. Like where could you just draw a nice horizontal line that makes sense? COHR is on the radar. It's on the radar. It wasn't on my watch list last night, but I talked about this as one as well. So just going to kind of leave it alone for now. Amazon money seems to be going to some of these mega caps recently. Amazon, Microsoft, Apple. Yeah, they have earnings coming up next week, it looks like. Not bad. I think it looks fine. This looks like a big, not really a big, this is just a cup and then the world's longest handle. So at some point, it's got to get going. You could look at something like DeepView. You could look at FinViz. You could look at Market Surge. You could probably go to Perplexity Finance and pull up that information. So, I don't hate ONDS. The only thing I dislike about ONDS is that recent offering that they did, which I think is such terrible value for the shareholders, but that's for another day. And it kind of broke down yesterday. Not what you'd really want to see if you thought this was a high type flag. Very, very sloppy one. All of a sudden, what looks like a high type flag, you just start adjusting your lines just to compensate. Kind of looks like shit to me right now. Maybe build out a little longer and then find a tight spot against the 50-day. Who knows? I don't really trade too many biotechs. ADPT. Oh man, this one's going to be way too thin, dude. Way too thin. 33 million bucks a day. I can't even touch it. I mean, maybe good for you, but I can't do anything with this thing. I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit better right in here. But super thin. If you're going to trade a biotech, you better know every single thing about that company. Otherwise, you're liable to get gapped down on or trade super small size. Yeah, I mean, Carvana looks really good. This super tight day, like if you were to get moving here, I don't see anything wrong with the Carvana, which is crazy to say. It's funny because Carvana has kind of led what this bull market has been trying to do for over 2 years. Better performer than Nvidia. When Carvana has gone down, the market has followed. When Carvana has gone up, the market has followed. If you kind of overlay a chart of Carvana with the S&P 500, or I mean the NASDAQ, excuse me, you'll be kind of pleasantly surprised how well this thing has led most turns. I don't like to buy more than 4 times its average true range from the 50. That's the multiple I use. Transmedics, this looks good. This looks good. It pull right into the 20 and the 50. Not bad. Yeah, well, not only do I post, when I'm taking a position or if I might be covering, I'm on stream most of the day, so I'll also be talking about it in real time. Hey, it's one thing for like somebody to just like show a chart in hindsight and say I did this, I did that, I did this. It's another thing to like talk about it through in real time and explain my reasoning for things. I feel like people learn a whole hell of a lot better that way than just like me showing you a chart in hindsight after it's already happened and say, look, this is where you should have bought. Yeah, that sounds good because we're looking at the chart in hindsight. But how many people are explaining their reasoning and they're, hey, I am buying this thing here, and then this is why in real time, and then explain that to you. That's going to be the very best way to learn. But anybody who like talks to you about a chart in hindsight and says this is what you should have done and this is how you should do it in the future, you got to understand that like that doesn't really work well for people, because you're going to talk about a 620 setup like somebody mentioned earlier and goes, Ariel, I bought this one and this one and this one and this one. But the reality is then we go through those charts and you're like, hey, but this one was below the 50 day. And hey, this one was in a group that wasn't acting so well. And hey, it's like you can go through then the reasoning, which is something that I'm doing in real time. But again, if you just have somebody explain something to you with total hindsight, like that doesn't ever really help anybody. So yeah, I not only write it down for people who can't be on live stream, I talk about it while I'm on live as well, because I do think that's the best way to learn. I don't really like what AEO looks like here. I do think maybe it follows in the path of ANF. I could be wrong, but I think ultimately we probably end up breaking down. VRT, I talked about this one yesterday. It's also on my radar, but I just don't like how it's channeling up here. So if silver goes up at the open, well, it is technically up before the open. It's already gapping up. I plan on holding my SLV right to my average, but SILJ I'm just going to hold as well. I'm comfortable to give back my open gains, although they were quite a bit in last night's washout. Hindsight, I take a little bit of my SLV off the table into last night's washout, but I'm pretty greedy sometimes, and especially on what I think could be a huge opportunity, but it's neither here nor there. But yeah, we'll see. Willing to hold till my stop, and then as it goes for SILJ, similar story, right? I'm kind of going for a massive trade instead of just a 1 day, 2 day wonder. So we're looking for a big trade. Just literally look left on the chart. That's how you should be able to determine overhead supply. Look left, right? Look left. What has happened before? Rocket Lab. Yeah, I talked about Rocket Lab, PL, KTOS, ASTS. I don't mind what this thing is doing. Again, a little bit more pull or allow the 50 simple to catch up, and I will be in it. And I'll be in it again. Yeah, I think Rivian is kind of broke. LGN, not bad. Recent IPO. Rivian beaten enough. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't like to assume that something's beaten enough, right? It's below the 50. This looks like shit. It's been going down in a straight line. Like, sure, we might get a bounce today, but for me, this isn't a clean swing setup. You also now have lots of supply here. I don't really want to deal with any of that. So that's just me. Yeah, I would hope AMD could build a handle as well. TTD, there should be no reason the stock is on your radar. Did I trade SNDK, dude? The day that I should have bought, so I had an alert set on SNDK right on this day, 247. But instead of buying SNDK, I bought Reddit and I bought A-Lab. So, I'm in the corner wearing a clown's hat right now for not owning SNDK instead. The year could basically be made on an SNDK. Could be a 7-figure trade instead. I'm like on the outside looking in. But I haven't shorted this front side, so I've been well behaved. GH, not bad. GMed's another one that I really like. And the XLY or XLV ETF, excuse me, is what I will be focused on myself. CRML. How is my Reddit going on now? I got stopped out a long time ago. I bought Reddit on right in here as it was taking out a prior day high on the 2nd. Same day I should have bought SanDisk, and I got stopped out on the 9th. Ugly price action stopped me out. So I don't like wide range bars. If I'm in a stock, the only wide range bars I want are to the upside. No, I'm not buying gap ups, guys. Guys, you saw me talk about this yesterday with CoreWeave or with USAR. I am not buying gap ups, period. I don't care who the deal is with. USAR got a deal with the United States government. CoreWeave got a deal with NVIDIA, more money. And GLW got a deal with Meta. All that sounds good. I'm not buying gap ups. Not in this environment. I would rather see a Corning go on to work. I would rather see another stock on news go on to work and then start to paint me a picture that the coast is clear. But right now, we don't have a picture of the coast is clear. What we have a picture of is you buy the gap up, you get your ass kicked, right? That's what the market's telling us at the moment. And maybe that'll change with Corning, but I'm not looking to experiment with my money. If somebody wants to experiment with theirs, Godspeed, but it won't be with mine. Caramel, this is super sloppy here. Nothing really to do with it. Sezzle, also a sloppy one. I already know what that one looks like. RKT, not bad. Quiet little pullback into the on falling volume into the 20 and the 50 day. I mean, maybe taking out Friday's high, 21.75, not bad. Thoughts on Wolf? I think that there are better ones within the data center space. I think there are better ones, although very, very tight. Not bad. I don't mind what yesterday did. We'll see. We'll see what it does if it can take out prior day high. So yesterday's highs. Not bad. Chime, recent IPO as well in the fintech space. A little bit of a pull on silver there. Sweet. Oh, yeah. Come on. Let's go, friend. Lots of passion this morning. Thanks, man. I must have slept well. Plus, it must be this new chocolate pistachio that I got from Costco. Fantastic stuff, man. Fantastic. Yeah, your messages are going through, but what's the message? Is the question that your questions are going through? Is that the question? Yeah, let's hope silver stays heavy, man. I want to add to it. I want to nail an absolute home run. Please, for the love of God, let me nail a home run here. The bat has already been swung. I've already got a super nice position in both SILJ and SLV. And then I'm looking at Hecla. And Hecla is trying to take out a prior day low at the moment. I mean, we are right at a prior day low. We closed, I want to say, what was the close yesterday on this thing? Yeah, I mean, we're technically below a prior day close at the moment. So I would love to nail it. I'm already in SILJ, so I'm like I said, I'm hoping for a massive home run trade here too. But I'd like to add to it. Like this is one of those situations where I get super, super greedy and I'm willing to watch green go back on me because it was never my money to begin with. But I'm looking to this kind of make the year. It could be the scenario. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who would want to own silver here either. This thing is just absolutely effing nuts in terms of price action. And then the volume that came into this thing yesterday, I mean, should give you some pause, right? Like if you still own silver here, as like a long-term holder, at the very least, you should have gotten rid of all your paper if you're a paper holder. And if you're a physical holder, you should have been running to your gold and silver bullion dealer and being like, hey, man, I'm trying to sell these couple 100 ounces. What you got for me? Right? Just sitting there like on this fucking metal in your in your safe, this heavy ass metal. I don't know how much more people could want in a short period of time, right? Buy it back lower. You wanted to ask how big your last ads is on silver short in comparison to previous ads. No, I keep adding 3% positions. So as it stands right now, I have just under 30% of my account in SLV and SILJ, and I would add more. I would go heavier. I would go as soon as I really truly feel like we're on the backside and pops like this continue to stay heavy and we start rolling over. I would get much bigger, right? I think I can move my portfolio 20%. But we'll find out. I think I can move my portfolio 20%, but I have to get very, very, very aggressive. But I'm comfortable doing it because of how, massive the move up was. But I got to do it in a way where if I'm wrong at this point, it's just a flat trade, right? That's the important differentiator. I'm not willing to go red on this massive of a position, but I'm willing to add slowly as it's working and add and add and add and add, so that if it ends up working and it does what I think it can do, I end up moving my portfolio 20, 30%, maybe not that much, but 20% would be spectacular. And we'll see. We'll see if that's even a possibility. That would be a career trade in terms of P&L, but we'll see. I don't care if it happens one way or the other. I just know that I have to add safely because, this is like trying to, nail a top or near a top and then add to a commodity. It's just not the same as, shorting a UAMY after it's had exhaustion gap after exhaustion gap after exhaustion gap. Thoughts on BMNR short? I don't think that I would be shorting like an MSTR or a Bitcoin or Ethereum at this point. I don't really. I mean, yes, I see it. I see how you could think about it. Could very well go lower, but I don't. I don't really care for it. I feel like at any moment this thing could start to rip right back up. I don't really want to deal with that. How much exposure should we be setting on a random/average day except follow through days coming out of corrections? Yeah, 20, 30% is too much in a single day. 30% is what I would do on a follow through day. So I think on like a random Tuesday, that's not a follow through day, 10, 15% at most. On a follow through day, 35, 40% feels about right? On a follow through day, that would cost you maybe 1%, 1.5% of your portfolio in case it's not a valid follow through day, but then sets you up for, a 30, 40, 50% account move if you've nailed the right names. And then you actually have follow through in the market and can get quickly invested. But on like a random day, dude, 10, 15, 20%, like 20 is on the high end. 15 seems a whole lot better. Now, if you have a lot of clean setups and the market's in a nice uptrend, you can get more. But I personally find that hard to do and kind of defeats the purpose of using progressive exposure. So, and progressive exposure is the one thing that always seems to keep me out of harm's way, right? And that's ultimately all that I care about. I'm okay putting money to work. I'm not really okay risking my capital in a big way. So, and a lot of people every single day just come to the market and risk their meaningful hard-earned money in like a real way, right? Like when I'm risking my money, I'm risking like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. But if I'm right and I do that for the year long, I end up making 40, 50% on my money. And in a good environment, even more. What would be your first trims on silver? So I'm kind of looking like down to the 10 and 20 day. So, we're talking about like from my entry 103s and change. Yeah, I'd be looking for like a 15% move down to the 20 would be kind of next. 15, 20% move, and then eventually down to the 50, and then eventually down to this breakout level, all the way back down to $50, which, I know nobody is sitting there thinking it's going down to $50, but I do. But it doesn't matter, right? We all have opinions. NEM, I already own it. I've already trimmed the shit out of it since it's been going up and getting extended from the 50. I literally keep trimming this thing about every single day. At this point, it'll either go sideways or it'll eventually close below the 20. When it closes below the 20, I'll be gone. Anyway, guys, I got to get stream started. Much love. Tons of passion today. Thank you guys for the awesome questions. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Trade them well. We'll talk to you guys in 23 and a half hours. Later.